He is God, exalted is he, the Lord of loving kindness and bounty. Glory be unto thee, thou, O my God, the Lord omnipotent. I testify to thine omnipotence and thy might, thy sovereignty and thy loving kindness, thy grace and thy power, the oneness of thy being and the unity of thine essence, thy sanctity and exaltation above the world of being and all that is therein. O my God, thou seest me detached from all save thee, holding fast unto thee and turning unto the ocean of thy bounty, to the heaven of thy favor, to the day star of thy grace. Lord, I bear witness that in thy servant thou hast reposed thy trust, and that is the Spirit wherewith thou hast given life to the world. I ask of thee, by the splendor of the orb of thy revelation, mercifully to accept from him that which he hath achieved in thy days. Grant then that he may be invested with the glory of thy good pleasure and adorned with thine acceptance. O my Lord, I myself and all created things bear witness unto thy might. And I pray thee not to turn away from thyself this Spirit that hath ascended unto thee, unto thy heavenly place, thine exalted paradise, and thy retreats of nearness, O thou who art the Lord of all men. Grant then, O my God, that thy servant may consort with thy chosen ones, thy saints and thy messengers in heavenly places, that the pen cannot tell nor the tongue recount. O my Lord, the poor one hath verily hastened unto the kingdom of thy wealth, the stranger unto his home within thy precincts. He that is sore, athirst to the heavenly river of thy bounty. Deprive him not, O Lord, from his share of the banquet of thy grace and from the favor of thy bounty. Thou art in truth the Almighty, the gracious, the all-bountiful. O my God, thy trust hath been returned unto thee. It behooveth thy grace and thy bounty that have compassed thy dominions on earth and in heaven, to vouchsafe unto thy newly welcomed one thy gifts and thy bestowals, and the fruits of the tree of thy grace. Powerful art thou to do as thou willest. There is none other God but thee, the gracious, the most bountiful, the compassionate, the bestower, the pardoner, the precious, the all-knowing. I testify, O my Lord, that thou hast enjoined upon men to honor their guest. And he that hath ascended unto thee hath verily reached thee and attained thy presence. Deal with him then according to thy grace and bounty. By thy glory, I know of a certainty that thou wilt not withhold thyself from that which thou hast commanded thy servants, nor wilt thou deprive him that hath clung to the cord of thy bounty and hath ascended to the dayspring of thy wealth. There is none other God but thee, the one, the single, the powerful, the omniscient, the bountiful.
Thank you, Tarjo. Thank you, Tara John. It was very interesting to me that Kurush and Tara got to start their life at their father's bedside, and they were there day and night. And surely that will bring them countless blessings as they continue their life together. God bless you. I was asked to take on this impossible task of conducting this memorial. And I was, Pavan is laughing at me because he was supposed to be part of the program, he pulled out. And right away, the full impact of this impossible task was felt, because I mean, how could you capture Omid's life adequately in any shape? So I had to accept for two main reasons, two fundamental reasons. One was his family asked me on his behalf, and anybody who knew Omid knows that he never asked for anything. He seldom asked for anything, and if he did ask you for something, you did it. You just do it. So I had to do it. And the other reason is really personal, because about 8 years ago, I was in a position to ask him for a similar favor, and that was to conduct our marriage ceremony. And he so lovingly accepted, and we had a beautiful ceremony in Armenia. And that was a very memorable event. But more importantly, it was the start of a new phase spiritually for me in this life. And then I found myself here today in similar fashion. It's a milestone, spiritual milestone, the most pronounced one, really, as he sets on to his eternal spiritual life. So I had to accept. And in honor of that day, I chose to wear my wedding jacket, which I now know why I kept, and I'm glad it still fit. So Omid loved color, and that's why the family deliberately didn't wear black and white, mostly. So thank you all for being so colorful with your smiles and your outfits. From birth, I opened my eyes to a world where Omid was a towering figure. And I think as a little boy, your uncle, I think everybody can relate to this, is a huge deal. He's a hero. So that was natural. But then as I grew up, I realized he wasn't my hero. He was everybody's hero. This guy was just cool. He was cool wherever he went. If he was with older folks, younger folks, he, first of all, made everybody feel included. You know, he was very inclusive in his approach to people. He had a very commanding presence. His presence was felt, but he was very approachable. He was very kind. He was very considerate to an unbelievable degree. It was only after years and years and years of really studying his behavior that you realized to what extent he thought and considered every little detail. And again, that was straight from his father, Baba. His sense of humor, very well known to everybody that knew him. Kurish and I was standing outside the door after he had passed away just moments ago. I mean, imagine that moment. We're standing there just exchanging events that took place in the past few hours, past few days. The jokes he still made. Sometimes he couldn't even speak. And we were just laughing out loud because that's the kind of humor and sense of humor he had. I mean, that's the sense of humor. If you can make people laugh in those circumstances, you're funny. And he was funny. Like all of us, he took his influence in life from many different sources. But chief among these was his faith and his love for Baha'u'llah and Baha'u'llah's teachings. And the other thing about Omid that many of you may have experienced is that he loved to understand how things worked. Just mechanically, philosophically, he loved to take things apart. You ask his mom, she'd tell you, I mean, now she'd look at it as a fond memory, but back when he was a kid, he'd take things apart of the house, you know, the blenders and the phones and everything, and he would never put them back together properly. They never worked again. And that stayed with him throughout his life. So he never passed anything without really reflecting on it. And the same with the teachings and the faith. He really deepened himself, which is quite uncommon, even for his generation. And I can, again, draw and that's to all of us who knew him, saw him so closely walking to those footsteps set before him by his dad. Dr. Karamatullah Yazdani, his dad, we call him Baba, is a giant spiritual being in our lives, and everything revolves around him, even now, 6 years after he's gone. So just a quick one about Mr. Yazdani, Baba. He started his path of service in his early 20s. In 1950, he set out to Kuwait. That was his first pioneering post. He was there for a couple of years. Then circumstances had him leave to actually he chose Saudi as his next destination. In particular, he went to Al-Ahsa, Kufuf. He was drawn to the hometown of Sheikh Ahmed, which, as some of you or many of you might know, was one of the Muslim scholars who, before the declaration of the Bab, was aware because of his knowledge and understanding of the Islamic traditions that the Promised One was approaching. His memorable parts of his eventful life. He had a very eventful life. Eventually, circumstances again led him to leave Saudi along with some of his other friends before finally settling in Abu Dhabi, the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. And that's where he stayed for well over 6 decades, serving so selflessly that community. And to this day, his grandson, I go to Abu Dhabi, and if I'm in a circle where there's some of the local tribes, you know, from those days, and at the time, Abu Dhabi didn't really have a big population. Once they understand that I'm his grandson or related to him, they pull me aside and tell me stories of, you know, one guy told me I'm here because of him. You know, it was a difficult birth, and they called Yazdani, and he came, and his hand was just healing. So that was Baba. It was a big deal. And, you know, Omid's life, last few years, he was filling those big shoes. So when Baba passed away in 2016, my relationship with my uncle, my Dai Omid, took another dimension, because now every interaction, every conversation, every look behind it, the subtext was Baba. So that's all we lived, all the time. Before he was admitted to the hospital, I got a chance to be at their home. I was sitting there for 6-7 hours. And even the best of days, he didn't speak much, but now speaking was difficult. So we exchanged maybe 4 or 5 sentences. Most of them revolved around Baba. You know, something along the lines of, what would Baba think of this? I wonder what Baba was thinking. And some of the other conversations generally, I mean, even before his illness, was, you know, moments where we'd get together as a family. My cousin, Aryan, plays the oud, and he'll play for us tonight. And, you know, we would enjoy it because it's beautiful, but also because we're enjoying it on behalf of Baba, and we can imagine him being so proud of him. So we'll enjoy that later. One of the major voids that's created for me personally, and I know many of you will share this with Omid's departure, is that we almost immediately lost our most reliable counsel. He was the man you just pick up the phone and call. Just go to the house and sit with him and talk about whatever was perplexing you in life, whatever decision you had to make, whatever was just not so clear. Not because he'd give you the answer, because he'd listen, first and foremost. He'd listen intently and without any judgment. And then he'd just accompany you that journey. And he'd share, much like his father, stories, events, draw parallels, and helped you get to the answer. He never imposed his view or, you know, made any explicit singular statements as to how things should be. And he never spoke on matters that he didn't have some knowledge of. And he seemed to know something about everything. So that mind of his was absolutely brilliant. And that was the most beautiful part of my uncle for me. It was his mind. And one of the most painful things to witness was as his body was just melting, decaying, falling apart, unable to carry that mind was intact. It was sharp as ever. Even when the drugs were so bad, he would recognize, he'd be talking, it's like, don't mind what I just said, because I think I'm a little drugged. So he'd be even aware of that. What a mind. So we're all aware of the many virtues and many messages have been exchanged in the past few days. Just in memory of Omid and his just amazing personality, his charisma, his kindness. But his impeccable attention to detail and his systematic execution of any task he thought he was responsible for was exemplary. Again, even in the last few weeks and months of his life. Those who were at Kurish's wedding, I've witnessed one miracle in my life that I can't deny, and that was him attending that wedding. It was just sheer will and God's grace. He got up from that bed, that bedridden state, and he attended that wedding, not just for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, for hours. And he was there and he was enjoying it, laughing, clapping. We couldn't picture that happening. And he did it. To the last day, he waited, he hung on to life until his beloved daughter came. Until she came to him. And he only left when they were all around him. And that's when he chose to close his eyes. I remember many years back, I must have been in my early teens. I don't know if you remember this. We're sitting at a family gathering, and Omid must have been late 30s, early 40s. And he said, I don't know what the conversation was. He said, when I turn 50, I just want to close my eyes and the light to go off. And you turned to him and said, Nino, don't say that. Well, you know, the weeks leading to that was, it would cleanse the dirtiest soul. And his soul was pure. But when the moment came, that's exactly what happened. He closed his eyes, lights went out. And that's how he took his flight in absolute peace. Maybe a bit later than he wanted, but nonetheless. So I'm very much comforted by the fact that he's now with the one we adored, our grandfather, his father, and of course, in the Abha kingdom, where we're hopefully all headed. Thank you so much again for sharing this evening with us. And I invite you to exchange memories you have of Omid with each other, and hopefully influences us and inspires us to do more of the acts that he did in his life. And I'm sure that he's going to continue to intercede on behalf of every one of you and the community, because his heart is here, his soul is here. I can't believe I'm in this hall and I can't see him standing in the back, but I'm sure he got here before all of us did. So he's here with us. So with that, we're going to have a recital or a chanting of an Arabic prayer by his younger sibling, my aunt Gita, then followed by an oud performance by Arya.
هو الله تعالى شأنه العظمة والاقتدار. إلهي إلهي أشكرك في كل حال وأحمدك في جميع الأحوال. فالنعمة الحمد لك يا إله العالمين، وفي فقدها الشكر لك يا مقصود العارفين. في البأساء لك الثناء يا معبود من في السماوات والأرضين. وفي الضراء لك الثناء يا من بك انجذبت أفئدة المشتاقين. في الشدة لك الحمد يا مقصود القاصدين، وفي الرخاء لك الشكر يا أيها المذكور في قلوب المقربين. في الثروة لك البهاء يا سيد المخلصين، وفي الفقر لك الأمر يا رجاء الموحدين. في الفرح لك الجلال يا لا إله إلا أنت، وفي الحزن لك الجمال يا لا إله إلا أنت. في الجوع لك العدل يا لا إله إلا أنت، وفي الشبع لك الفضل يا لا إله إلا أنت. في الوطن لك العطاء يا لا إله إلا أنت، وفي الغربة لك القضاء يا لا إله إلا أنت. تحت السيف لك الإفضال يا لا إله إلا أنت، وفي البيت لك الكمال يا لا إله إلا أنت. في القصر لك الكرم يا لا إله إلا أنت، وفي التراب لك الجود يا لا إله إلا أنت. في السجن لك الوفاء يا سابغ النعم، وفي الحبس لك البقاء يا مالك القدم. لك العطاء يا مولى العطاء، وسلطان العطاء ومالك العطاء. أشهد أنك محمود في فعلك يا أصل العطاء، ومطاع في حكمك يا بحر العطاء ومبدأ العطاء ومرجع العطاء.
you, Aryanjan. Now, Kurosh Omid's son, Dr. Kurosh Yazdani. Dr. K. Yazdani reminds me of my grandfather, same initials. He will have a few words about his father and maybe the timeline of his life. Please.
Allah everyone. So I wanted to briefly talk about my dad. There was a lot I wanted to share, and I really wish that I had more time. Everyone has such beautiful stories, and we all know his character and his nature. So I'm not going to talk about that too much, as Erfan already mentioned a few of his very distinct characteristics. I wanted to talk about his life, briefly his journey through life, and along this journey maybe mention a few stories that either he loved telling or his family loved telling. His mom, his dad, his sisters, brothers. A lot of people shared a lot with me, and I apologize if they're not included. I have recorded a lot of this down, and we will definitely keep it for the books. Omid Yazdani, dad. You know, it actually feels really surreal talking about him as his son. I was mentioning this today. I woke up in such a good mood today. It was just pure happiness I was feeling. And I was a little confused and maybe concerned. But it was really unexplainable. I don't know why. There's just joy. And it almost feels like I'm showing off when I say that he's my dad, you know? And that means a lot. I mean, look around you. This is amazing. So, Dad was born in Dehbid, Iran. 1 month later, he came to Abu Dhabi. I'm going to try to paint a picture for you and maybe tell this story as my dad would. The house that they lived in at the time was called khayma, which translates to tent. It was literally a semi-permanent tent at the time, built in the desert of Abu Dhabi, built with cloth, wood, palm trees, palm leaves, in sort of clusters. His dad, Baba, was very protective of the community and of his household. So what he did was he had installed 4 locks at the door of their house. One day when Dad was around 4 years old, Maman goes looking for him in the afternoon and couldn't find Dad. Now keep in mind they lived in the desert. They looked everywhere, and Mama noticed that the doors on the locks on the door were broken. She looked outside, but it was weird because the sand, you know, when you're walking at the time is about, you know, you sink in about mid-shin. So it's not really walkable. So everything was driving, even short distances. So she went crying door to door, begging to find my dad. And eventually reached a family member's house really far away, and only to find a 4-year-old Omid sitting in their living room playing. And he really got there by himself at the age of 4. Through the desert. It's amazing how his geographical mapping started on so early and how good he was with directions. The first school in Abu Dhabi opened up in the 60s. Dad went on his first day, came back, and Baba, so excited, asked him what he learned. And Dad said a terrible curse word. Baba was shocked. Dad never went back. He was not a very easy child. He was known as a troublemaker in the community. He was one of the naughtiest kids around at the time. Around the same time, Maman and Baba would often see my dad somehow climbing, this is before he was 5 years old, the side of the khayma and balancing along the top supporting beam of the tent, and they would go crazy. That's around the same time that they decided to send him to a place some of you know as New Era in Panchgani, India. They had to find some way to control this guy. New Era, for those of you who don't know, was a school on top of a mountain in a mountain range in Panchgani, which was a boarding school. This was a very sort of well-known amongst the Baha'is in the Arabian Peninsula, and he was sent there with his brother Ramin at the age of 5. For those who know him, we all really adored hearing his stories and the way he would actually say his stories. That was the best part. You spend one day with him and I'm sure you'll hear some story. Especially my favorites were always about New Era. So I have 2 stories to share. One about butter and one about pigeons. Let me tell you about pigeons first. So food was somewhat scarce at the time, especially for a fast developing boy who ended up pretty tall. Different boys started developing certain specialties and skills early on to survive in this boarding school. My dad started becoming excellent at using slingshots, which he'd learned to use to hunt for pigeons. Well, now you have a dead pigeon in your hands. What next? They didn't have access to stoves, kitchens, lighters, so they would really just take and steal anything useful that they could get their hands on. They would create a small fire and cook these pigeons in hiding on these small tin containers on an open flame. My dad described the taste of pigeons as creamy and slightly bitter. But not because, the creaminess was not because it was cooked so well, but because, the tins that they used was inadequately rinsed containers of Nivea cream. For those of you who don't know what that is, you can Google a picture of Nivea cream tin and you'll know. I love hearing that story. My favorite story of his is about butter in New Era. Butter was apparently considered gold over there. The kids would die for butter, waiting for it to be passed around. Now, because it was so wanted, it was also a controlled substance. And it would be individually placed on their plates by the servers who would walk around with trays of butter. My dad, an early entrepreneur and businessman, took this opportunity to develop what became his first business, selling butter for other goods and services. First step was the hardest though. How do you get extra butter? You don't want to give away the small piece of butter you have. My dad wanted to enjoy his butter, but also have extra butter. So he developed a technique. What he learned to do was when the workers would come in with that tray of butter, he learned, instead of just keeping his plate down, he would lift up his plate and put it over that tray of butter. Now, what they didn't know was underneath the plate that he was holding, he found a way to hide a fork pointed downwards so that when he reaches up and holds his plate over that tray of butter, he would press down the fork onto that tray under the plate and hope that it catches some butter. He would get he would get a piece of butter on top, he would pull it back, and now he has butter on top and under the plate. So now you have butter, but you don't have access to refrigerators. And you need to sell this butter real quick. He hated washing his socks. So what he would do is he would butter other students' breads. In exchange, they would wash his socks. You know, he would say, you learn very quickly that it's not possible to keep butter in your pocket very long before it melts into your pants. So when that happened, what he would do is he would take the student's bread and wipe it on the inside of his pants and give it back to the students. And the thing is, he would avoid washing those pants for as long as possible so that he doesn't waste any butter. He stayed in India until he was 13 and came back to Abu Dhabi and attended school there until he was in 9th grade. And then a couple more years of him and his parents got sick of having him around again, so sent him to Bahrain. He stayed in Bahrain until the 11th grade, where he got sick of school and decided to go to the US. But he was in 11th grade, so he had to forge his documents in order to get accepted into Florida. Clearly, he was a little difficult to handle, but that's where he went. He went where to study and become an aeronautical engineer. On his way to the US in 1978 about, he transited in the UK where Seema, his eldest sister, was. You know, he always described to me when he landed over there, my aunt Seema took him to what he described as the best tasting burger joint he has ever been to. He loved that. He described it as super fancy, amazing. He was so proud of Seema because she knew all those, you know, cool hidden gems around the UK. And once, after being introduced to McDonald's, he went to the US. He then got an opportunity in Dallas, Texas, after studying and finishing, to work as an engineer on small aircrafts. But his boss didn't take it too well when he'd be found sleeping on the hood of his old car underneath the wing of the airplane, so as to maximize airflow and cool down in the heat of Texas. So he left and came back to Abu Dhabi, where him and one of his best friends, Payam, took over a business that then became known as Gulf Color Film Photography. I want to take this opportunity to mention that Dad was absolutely terrible at any client-facing experiences. He really didn't have the patience to deal with his clients. But Payam is a charmer, and he was great at that, but an absolutely terrible businessman. So together, they really blended in very well. Their connection and friendship is like none other I've ever seen. And I want to read a short excerpt from that Payam sent to his daughter Alhan upon hearing that my dad was not doing too well. This was sent a few days ago. For those of you who don't know, Amu Payam could not be here. He's in Australia. So I just wanted to read this, and this really shows the bond that they shared. And I'm sure that many of you also share with him. So he says, I so want to be there with him. That's the first thing I'll do when I get my Australian passport. Go and see him and be with him. You know that he wasn't just my friend and business partner, he was my confidant and older brother. There are certain unspoken guidelines and limits when it comes to friendship. With Omid, there was none for me. I would willingly put my life in his hands and not be worried. I swear, sometimes I trust him more than myself. In every respect, he's a great human being in every sense of the word, and I miss him every day. I miss his sense of humor, his sarcasm, his wisdom, his love for others, and his very distinguished and outstanding wish and hope for other success. This last one he inherited from his father. You will rarely find someone who truly and selflessly becomes happy when he sees or hears about someone's success. Omid always did. I love him very much, and seeing him in this state is tearing me apart. Please keep him in your deepest prayers while on pilgrimage. You can forget about us, no problem. But not him, please. I'm so jealous that you saw him and I can't be with him. Take care, Azizam. Love you. At 23 years old, Dad had a dream that seemed to have changed his life forever. He was always an inquisitive man and got into a phase of diving deep into the Baha'i faith and would read continuously. One night, he wakes up and tells his sister Sima about the dream that he had. It was a dream that he had about Abdul Baha holding his hands and lifting him up. When he woke up, he didn't want to touch anyone or anything with that hand because he could still feel Abdul Baha's soft touch on that hand. This dream now appears to have been a catalyst for his spiritual growth. At 24 years old, he fell in love with an amazing woman who he saw riding a motorcycle, Sima, my mom. Together, they joined hands and became an unstoppable force in every community that they've ever become a part of. Look around you, the diversity, race, religion, gender. It's amazing. Dad has achieved excellence in every possible avenue of life. Family, business, friends. He touched everyone's soul that he came across in one way or another. From the elderly telling me about the lessons they've learned from Dad, to small children who still come around asking if they can watch silent nature documentaries with him. Finally, he excelled spiritually to the point where God decided that his time on earth was done at a relatively young age, and that he was needed more in the kingdom of Baha. This spiritual excellence was not actually achieved by him. In the Baha'i faith, we believe that marriage is the unification of two souls. That dream he had may have started his journey, but my mother was the tireless fortress, enamored by him and fueled by the love of Baha'u'llah, that drove their unified souls towards spiritual exaltation. Until the day he passed on, Dad told us the only thing that matters in life is to be happy, and that this happiness can be achieved through only two things: family and service to the cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurasha. I think Gloria is up next. Gloria is Omid's beloved sister-in-law. She has some, I think she'll explain it better, some messages that he shared when he couldn't go on pilgrimage, unfortunately.
Hello, dear friends. Omid and Seema were to go for pilgrimage this past April, but Omid could not go because he did not get a visa for Israel. So he accompanied her with heart, soul, and spirit. Every morning for 9 days, before she woke up, there would be a message waiting for her. These are his pilgrimage notes. My love, by the time you read this, you will inshallah be in the Holy Land. You don't know how happy this makes me, that God has willed this for you. To ask you to pray for me is an obvious request. However, I sincerely hope your pilgrimage will be acceptable in the sight of God, and all his blessings and love will be showered upon you during these 9 days, and you will be spiritually revitalized and come back with a stronger sense of purpose and inner happiness. When you have completed the requests of all the friends and your own, then and only then, please remember me in your prayers and request the Abha Beauty to make me firm in his covenant and to enable my inner eye to be opened, and that my will conforms to his will at all times. Love you beyond imagination, and I will also pray that your pilgrimage will be smooth and without any challenges of COVID issues. Day 1. Hi, Azizam. Your pilgrimage starts today. You are officially the guest of Baha'u'llah for the next 9 days. May you have a blessed experience. Love you. During your first visit to the shrine of the Bab today, please pray for the progress of the faith activities in the UAE. Day 2. Good morning, honey. Today you will be visiting the shrine of Baha'u'llah. You all are so blessed to have this opportunity. Please pray to your father and my father for their spiritual progress, and also to intercede on our behalf to the Almighty for keeping us firm in the covenant and to enable us and give us courage to teach his cause at all times and under all conditions. Day 3. Hi, love. Today I don't know what your schedule is, but I am sure you will be going to holy sites and will have the opportunity for prayer. Maybe you can pray for the spiritual health of the Dubai cluster, and that the community may rise up to the activities of the next 9-year plan. Day 4. Hi, love. Today you may be going to the mansion of Mazare and mansion of Bahji and the site of the shrine of Abdul Baha. How blessed are you three and the other pilgrims. Please pray for the steadfastness of the community in the UAE and the increase in our activities towards the goal of the 9-year plan. Love you. Day 5. Hi, love. Today I believe you are going to visit the archives and witness the amazing artifacts of the central figures and the historical figures of the faith. As you pray in front of the portraits of the Bab and Baha'u'llah, please supplicate for our increase in service to his cause and to shelter us under his protection. Wow, how wonderful it must have been to hear the member of the House of Justice in person. Day 6. So as today you visit the shrines again, pray that Baha'u'llah may increase our capacity to read and understand his writings, and to enable us to consult on matters, as Paul Lample says, to come to true understanding. Day 7. Hi, love. Today you have dawn prayers and then another historic visit day. Please pray for all the souls who have passed away as pioneers in the UAE, for the progress of their souls in the Abha Kingdom, and ask for their assistance in furthering the activities in the UAE, so that we all will be able to accomplish what the House of Justice is asking us to do. Lots of love. Day 8. Hi, love. I guess today you will be visiting the buildings in the Ark. Here you will experience the scale of the work being done at the World Center. At any opportunity for prayers, please remember our circle of friends and pray that their love and understanding increases for the faith. Day 9. Hi, love. So today will be your last day of pilgrimage. Inhale the sweet fragrances of the holy shrines and pray for our increase in activities.
Thank you, Gloria John. I will invite Animesh and Asim, dear friends of Omid, to say a few words.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allahu Abha. Omid. The first thought that comes to mind is hope. The hope to strive and leave behind a better world for an ever-advancing civilization ordained by the manifestation of God for this day and age. Baha'u'llah, not in words alone, but in deeds. Omid, a pure and radiant soul, is an embodiment of practicing what we preach. A man of few words, whose abundant deeds were his true adorning. For me, the trait that distinguished his character was his absolute detachment from his viewpoint. He would seldom impose his thoughts on others. Whenever I sought answers from him, he, in a constant state of learning, would tell me, let us refer to the holy writings and investigate the truth and consult. Today, dear friends, I would like to share some snippets of my journey with Omid and Omid's journey with me. I have known Omid since the time my family and me were a part of the wider community. My daughters, they're in university now, were still kids attending the Baha'i children's classes in the Greens. During a parents' devotional meeting where I first met Omid, I was instantaneously drawn to his depth of spiritual knowledge and understanding. His patient demeanor enkindled my then latent thirst for seeking answers that then paved the way to study circle. He was our facilitator from Ruhi Book 1 all the way to the higher books, and thus we became united as a spiritual family. My journey from being a friend of the faith to the time when the faith accepted us and beyond has been truly enriching. I have been a part of Omid's journey from the time he had a reticent and serious demeanor to the time he was more social and jovial. Anything that is constant is change. And what better way Omid can teach us that, but with his organic and seamless transformation. The devotional meetings and dinners would never conclude before what comes after PQR S. Your guess is as good as mine. T, also known as chai. Although more of a coffee person, he would affectionately make noise for the hosts. Desert outings. During the UAE winters, he would, along with Simadi, be the first people to reach the venue, set up the LED lights powered by his car battery, barbecue pits, table, and then the bonfire. He had a deep knowledge about the desert, which I experienced firsthand when he took the children of the community for a desert trip. He would always carry a shovel to help SUVs stuck in the sand, both known and belonging to strangers. Off-roading modes, deflating car tires, et al. This shovel would also serve a dual purpose of scaring and chasing kids on Halloween in their Meadows house. These glimpses have crystallized in my memory and will never cease to end. We have all gathered here today to celebrate Omid Jan's life in this world of God. He, in his unique way, have touched the lives of every soul that had crossed his path. So long, brother. May you soar on the loftiest realms of the Abba kingdom till we meet again. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know Omid much, to be honest. And only 4 years back, when we moved to Greens, I met first time Omid. Okay, so when the first time I went to a social gathering in the evening, a spiritual gathering, a gentleman sitting in a room on a nice, comfortable chair, the best chair in the room, and is smiling. So he's the man of few words. Probably for the next 10 evenings, or probably next 10 weeks or 5-6 months, we never spoke to each other. And then I started slowly talking to me. Then I started understanding that he's very deep in each conversation I had with him. I came to know me better last winters only, I would say last December, when we started cycling together. And early morning, me, Pavan, and Nuved, if he's there in the room, we used to go to cycle in the Medan race track. And then one day Omid said, he also want to join. And I said, okay. And Pavan said, okay, come Omid. Pavan gave one of his cycle to me. And first day when he came to the cycling, he was in his jeans. I think he was not having the shoes also. He was in a slippers with the jeans and this, and we used to cycle 30 kilometers. So I told Pavan, I said, listen, I think today we need to do less and we'll come back. But what happened to my surprise, he was, I think, the earliest one to reach all the way to Jumeirah. We had nice parathas and tea. And that day I realized, what is Omid? Full of energy. And I was feeling that he's so active at this age. I'm really, really not good. And then I used to come little slow while coming back because there were slopes and dives in the tunnel. Omid always used to come with me in the end. And while we were riding together, he used to give me a lot of wisdom. And that still stays with me. So at least this was like full winter we did together, and we had a great time. Thank you for that, Omid. And Omid, everyone has arranged a nice dinner today. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, friends. We have one more speaker, which is Roya. She served with Omid on the National Spiritual Assembly. So she will share a few words with us on him. And she, of course, knew him from Abu Dhabi for many, many, many years. And after this, we will have a slideshow and Confucius talks.
دوستان عزیز الله ها، I'll speak in Farsi and I'll try to translate in English. 20 سال پیش تقریباً ببخشید من برای مدت 10 روز در بیمارستان بستری شدم. یکی از بیمارستان‌های معتبر ابوظبی. بعد روزی که میخواستم از بیمارستان بیام بیرون رفتم حسابداری، گفتن که یک پیرمردی اومده و پول تو رو داده. من هیچ آدرسی هیچ شماره‌ای هم نذاشته. بعد من با آشنایی که داشتم حدس زدم و به زور تونستم بفهمم که کسی که این کارو کرده آقای یزدانی بودن، کرامت الله یزدانی. و این پسر فرزند اون پدر هستش. تو تمام زندگیش هر کاری که کرد، هر خدمتی که کرد، هر قدمی برداشت بدون سر و صدا و بدون اینکه بخواد خودش رو نشون بده انجام داد. Around 20 years back, I admitted in the hospital for 10 days. When I was going out, I went to the finance and then to the cashier to pay. And then they said, there is an old man who came and paid and he left without leaving any name, any telephone number. So I started thinking, who will be that person? And then by knowing the Baha'is in Abu Dhabi, I guessed that he is Mr. Yazdani. And then by asking, I came to know that he is the one, but he didn't tell me. I came to know from other sources. Even he didn't tell them, but I came to know at the end that he's the one who paid. And Omid is his son. Every step he has taken, all the service he has done in his life, all the helps, everything that was so quiet, without announcing, without showing himself. I know Omid more than 40 years. We worked in different institutes together, starting from the National Youth Committee. من امید رو بیش از 40 سال میشناسم و با هم تو مؤسسات زیادی کار کردیم. شروع شد با لجنه ملی جوانان و بعد از اون محافل محلیه و بعد از اون شورای جوانان خلیج و اخیراً در محفل روحانی ملی. So we served together in the National Youth Committee, LSS, the Council for the Baha'is, the Youth Baha'is in Gulf, and at the end, UAE NSA, the National Spiritual Assembly of United Arab Emirates. This opportunity made me know his spiritual values, his capacity, his capability in administrative. یعنی این 40 سال خدمت با هم و کار کردن من رو با صفات روحانی که اون داشت و قابلیت هایی که اداری که داشت آشنا کرد. امید دارای قلبی مملو از عشق و ایمان به امر جمال مبارک بود که احتیاجم به بیان اون نداشت. نمونه ای از فردی که متمسک به عهد و میثاق بود و اون رو تو رفتار و منشش و کردارش ما میدیدیم. شخصی بود حکیم و دانا. همه صحبتام همین رو نشون میداد و همیشه به عنوان مشاور برای افراد که خودشون تماس میگرفتند و به اون مراجعه میکردند و در امور مختلف زندگیشون باهاش مشورت میکردند. نه یک بار، نه دو بار، بلکه کرارن و یکیش خود من بودم. و در مؤسسات امری وقتی امور خیلی مهمی بود از امید خواسته میشد که به عنوان فردی که مراجعه کنه یا افرادی که مسئله دارن یا چیزی هست امید کمک بکنه. Omid, he has a heart full of love to Baha'u'llah. And we could see it. Everyone told about this today. They're talking about it. and he was not talking about it, but we were seeing his characters. He was so wise, so everyone was contacting him to discuss with him, to ask his opinion, which today all the stories also was that. Even in the Baha'i Institute, in the LSA, NSA, and even the youth committee, when there was some things happening and it was a bit critical, we could ask Omid to interfere and to see the people who is related to this case, and he will solve all the problems in a really wise way. در مسیر خدمت امید بدون سر و صدا خدمت میکرد با کمال دقت و مهارت و حکمت و جدیت و سعی میکرد که در اسرع وقت کاری که به او موکول شده انجام بده و وقتی که کاری به او واگذار میشد جزو اولویت های او قرار میگرفت تا اینکه اون کار رو انجام بده و یکی از نمونه هاش این دفتر محفل روحانی ملی هستش که سالها روش کار میکردیم ولی امید جان با دقت و با سرعت و با نظم و ترتیب تونستند خیلی سریع این دفتر رو آماده بکنن. In the service he was serving without noise. Sorry, my English is, I'm using very simple words. And without showing himself, with so efficient, he was serving and wise and جدیت چی میشه؟ Seriously, yeah. And any task was given to him, he would do it so fast and it will be his priority to do it. And one example, the NSA office, which he did it so nice in very incredible time. He finished that office. All of us, we know that he was so so organized, so well organized in everything. He was coming the first person to the meetings, never missed the meetings unless there is something critical, but normally I didn't see him missing any meetings. شخصی بودن بسیار منظم و مرتب، همه میدونن، انضباط داشتند و همیشه اولین شخصی بودن که یا سر وقت برای هر برنامه حاضر می شدن، هر جلسه بود و از دست نمی دادن مگر اگر چیز خیلی نباشد در کشور. مثلا بخشش و سخاوتی که امید داشتند یکی دیگه از صفات روحانی اون بود که در رفتارش ظاهر بود. استقبال از مهمانان در منزل خودش، عدم دریغ نمودن از وقت خودش در مشورت، در همراهی افراد و امور مختلف دیگه، گوش دادن به مسائل افراد. He was so generous on his time, on his opinion, on opening his house for everyone. ما امید رو تو همه کانونشن های ملی میدیدیم. All the national conventions, Omid was there. At the end, he was taking the best photo of all the delegates and NSA members for the new year. And in all our houses, we have that. توی همه کانونشن های ملی امید جان بودند و آخرین عکس اون کانونشن رو همیشه امید میگرفتن به منتهای زیبایی و دقت و اولین عکس محفل ملی سال جدید. در جلسه محفل و مؤسسات در موقع مشورت حالت امید خیلی عجیب بود. اولا که همه میدونیم که کم صحبت میکردن، ایشون زیاد صحبت نمیکردن، خیلی گوش میدادن به مشورت ها و موازی و بعد وقتی که میخواستن صحبتی بکنن اون فکری که در ذهنشون بود رو با صدای بلند در میون میذاشتن، نحوهی که فکر میکردن. موقعی که میخواستن یک مسئله بیشتر باز بشه یه سوال مطرح میکردن و این سوال باعث میشد که بقیه ابعاد جدیدی از اون مشورت رو ببینن و این دقت خیلی کمک میکرد برای وقتی مشورت میکردیم. و وقتی میخواستیم رأی بگیریم همیشه امید سرش رو میذاشت پایین که وقتی اعضا دستشون رو بالا میکنن و این منتهای شرافت انسان و اون nobility هستش. In the consultation in LSA and NSA, Omid was listening to everyone, always very carefully, was listening to others' opinion. And then when he wanted to share his opinion, he was, whatever is in his mind, he was talking about it. And sometimes he raised a question. And that questions make everyone think more. And there is many, many different angles open in our mind. And then at the end, when we want to voting, when we want to vote, he was putting his head down to not see who is raising his hand, who is yes or no, whatever. And that's really the high level of nobility. In the consultation, he was so justice. He was thinking of everyone. He was trying to look maslahat umum, the favor of everyone. میشه maslahat umum چی میشه؟ maslahat umum. Yeah, the good of all. He was always in this way consulting with us. در حین مشورت همیشه عدالت رو به کار می بردن، سعی می کردن که مصلحت عموم رو انجام بدن. درست همون فضائل اصحاب شور که بهش اشاره شده بود سعی می کردن انجام بدن و در نظم اداری خیلی دقیق بود، کوتاه نمی بدن. In the high administrative, he was so firm. Always he was so firm in this. And never talk about people. وقتی که صحبت میشه never he talk about people. حالا چه میخواد توی مؤسسه باشه یا خارج از مؤسسه باشه، هیچ وقت در مورد افراد صحبت نمی‌کردن. صفات دیگه‌ای که همه میدونید، حوصله داشتن، صبر و تحمل، دقت، تجزیه و تحلیل امور، تمام این قابلیت‌هایی که کمک می‌کرد به هر مؤسسه اداری که توش کار می‌کردن که هی این مؤسسه قواش بیشتر بشه. یکی دیگه از اون چیزایی که ما اخیراً از امید جان دیدیم این که تا ایام اخیر جلسه محفل بود و با این بیماری که ایشون داشتن و با این درد و المی که تحمل میکردن سعی میکردن از دور رو بستر بیماری بودن با زوم در جلسه محفل شرکت بکنن. One of the most important things we have witnessed this last few weeks that Omid, even although he was sick and he was in pain, but he joined NSA meeting last 2-3 weeks, although he was on the bed by Zoom. And that was so touchable and so ذی قیمت, so valuable for NSA members. خجالت کسی رو نمیپسندیدند. من این رو بارها دیدم. تو هر موقعیتی بود دوست نداشت که خجالت کسی رو ببینه. He doesn't like to see someone who feels shame. Never. He doesn't like that. And he was trying that consultation or anything, either in an institute or outside, to not keep that person in that level. And he was so patient with many things. People will go to him and ask him for something. Again, next time, same thing will ask him. Especially the technical thing, technology things. I was one of them before I was doing the reports. And then I go to him, Omid, in Comac, and he was helping me. We prepared a PowerPoint. Okay, next year, again. Next year, again. More than 3-4 times, same thing. I mean, same things we repeated every year. And he was so nicely helping and continuously helping us. اینقدر صبر و حوصله داشتن، اینقدر با خوبی رفتار می‌کردن. سالها که راپورت‌های سالیانه تهیه می‌شد، من از امید کمک می‌خواستم. امسال کمک کرد. سال بعد تا 2-3 نصف شب همینطور 4 نصف شب می‌نشست و کمک می‌کرد. سال بعد دوباره همون باز کمک می‌کرد. سال بعد و نمیگه خب من که پارسال یادت دادم، چرا خودت دیگه نمی‌کنی؟ اصلاً و این احساسو به شخص نمیداد. تموم شد. اگر بخوام صحبت کنم که خیلی هستش، ولی من میدونم وقت دوستان رو گرفتم، خیلی خیلی ببخشید، ولی واقعا شخصی هست که در کار کردن باهاش در مؤسسه افراد زیادی ازش یاد گرفتن که یکی خود من بودم. There is many things we can say about Omid, but at the end, I can say only working with Omid in an institute, it's a big learning, which I was one of them who learned from him. Go ahead, Shad.
Thank you so much, Roya John. We had to cut it short because we're having technical issues. The Zoom session is about to expire, so we'll just continue with the videos. Thank you.
I've been hearing symphonies. Before all I heard was silence. A rhapsody for you and me. And every melody is timeless. Life was stringing me along. Then you came and you cut me loose. Was solo singing on my own. Now I can't find a key without you. And now you're so
Dear friends, I would like to speak with you about spirituality. Now, some of you might be thinking that what is this nonsense? We don't have time for all this in the world. We are busy making money, making a living, or whatever it is that we're doing. Hold on, slow down. Spirituality is important. A human being has a soul. It requires to be in contact with its creator. Yes, some of you might not believe that there is a creator, but deep inside you know that this is not all an accident. How can this be an accident? There is more purpose to life than just working and sleeping and making money and so forth. So we need to endeavor to increase our spirituality, which comes through communication with. So to continue about the spirituality, yes, it is, we need to communicate with our Creator. We need to read what He has said. We need to contemplate. We need to meditate. And we need to be in a prayerful state throughout the day. It is difficult. It is not an easy task. However, let me tell you, if you practice, it will happen. In anything that you do, you can do it in a prayerful state. Whether you are working, whether you are out having fun with your friends, it is the state of mind that is important. So you see what I mean? So we need to work on it a little bit to get this ball rolling on the spirituality, if you know what I mean. You see, my friends, as these trees up here shoot up towards the sun, looking for nourishment from the sun, we too as human beings always turn our gaze towards the Creator for spiritual nourishment. However, it takes effort. It is not an automatic process. We must put effort into it to turn our gaze towards the Creator and draw from that spiritual source. Yeah. Beautiful. Isn't it? The serenity, the quiet, the peace. Yes. You know, there are times that our stress levels are very high these days. I don't know what is going on. However, let me tell you, we need to relax sometimes and reduce these levels of stress which is coming around so often. Go and walk, take your shoes off, go to the beach if you have a beach, go to the mountains if you have a mountain, walk in the sand, in your backyard, go to the desert if you have a desert. Remove your shoes. Touch the earth with your feet. If you can sit and touch the earth with your hands, relax and see how you feel. It will give you a very calming effect, and that is when we can think about deeper things. Do you know what is the secret of happiness? If you think I have the answer, you're mistaken. The secret to happiness, there is no secret, my dear. It is not related to your material acquisitions, that is for sure. It is not related to your abilities, that is also for sure. However, if you're looking to find that secret, look within. Spiritual matters. That is where you will find it. Not of the things of this world. That happiness is momentarily. It seems lately Many people are losing their loved ones. Children are losing their parents. Parents are losing their children. Siblings are losing each other. Some old, some young. It's difficult, very difficult. We are on this planet for some 70, 80, 90 years, if we are lucky, 100 years. But that's it. But I've noticed when we lose our younger ones, it really bothers us and we start questioning the wisdom of all of this. I understand we should be questioning it. It is difficult not to question it. However, there are things we don't understand regarding life. On the same note of the early demise of a loved one, I would like to add that yes, it is very difficult and we sometimes don't understand the wisdom and we start blaming. It's difficult, very difficult and painful. And in no way do I claim to be above this either. We are all, it's painful for all of us, regardless. So what now? What do we do? Because we don't understand death. We don't understand what happens. But however, we do believe, most of us, that they are all in a better place. So now, what is the question? The question is, what do? We pray. That is the connection to them. We pray for them. Yes. Hello, friends. One day, my father, as he was pouring tea in his glass, he said, as I pour this tea, think about it. Before this event, it is the past, and there is nothing we can do about it. What happens after I pour this tea is the future, and we have no control over it. We don't know what is going to happen. What, however, is important is when I pour this tea and I start to drink, that is the present. Make the most of the present. Do not dwell on the past because there is nothing you can do about it. You see what I mean? So enjoy and meditate and go to the forest and think about things. God's mercy is like this waterfall. It pours on you, regardless. It doesn't discriminate. Isn't it gorgeous? Wonderful.
Thank you very much, friends, for your patience. Thank you for joining us on this special evening. And go meditate, go to the forest, and enjoy yourselves. Thank you. Dinner first, so please proceed to dinner. And Cameron has asked the family to come for a picture, so please stay back for a picture. Thank you, everyone.